Hi, I'm Maggie. I'm a licensed clinical psychotherapist. I have degrees in psychology, theology, and marriage and family therapy, and a national certification in dialectical behavioral therapy. In this video, I'm not seeking to diagnose anyone. I'm only willing to offer insight into situations like these. Hey, everybody. Thank you for being in here. Hi, Nina. Number one. Number one. Hi, Leon. Thanks for being in here. Okay, so today is session number 3 in our next level shadow work. Hi, Cynical Optimist. Peace to you as well. So today we're going to pick up where we left off, which is authenticity. So one of the things I want to talk about is people apologizing too much or apologizing too little. So I touched a little bit on how it seems like people are surprised when a person takes accountability. I need to get a drink. Excuse me. Throat's itchy today. So on one hand, we see that people don't really take accountability. But on the other hand, it seems like people who are kind, they are nice, they are empathetic, they apologize way too much. Way too much. I mean, for things that literally have nothing to do with you. And I find myself doing that sometimes, but it's more to offer condolences, I guess, for a situation. Somebody could say, oh, I've been working outside all day and it's really hot. And I'll be like, oh, I'm sorry. Which, like, I don't control the sun, nor people's work schedules. But in that way, it will be very clear to say, I'm just because I feel for you. But we'll do things that we have no obligation to say, I'm sorry, and we'll do it anyway. Or we'll already say the thing, like we'll say, excuse me, and we'll walk past and then we'll be like, I'm sorry. Like we already said, excuse me, you're fine. And I'm not encouraging people to not apologize, or my collar is crooked. It's driving me nuts because I can see it. Okay, I'm gonna let it go. Hi, Corey McPherson, and blessings to you and yours as well. So when we apologize too much, I think sometimes it's because we have been emotionally or psychologically manipulated by people before, where we've been told everything is our fault. And one of the ways to prevent, or we kind of feel like one of the ways to prevent an argument or from being yelled at or blamed is to immediately take the fault of anything. And we carry that forward. So every little thing that happens, oh, I'm sorry. So I'm sorry all the time. So one of the things that I like to do instead of saying I'm sorry is saying thank you. Because if it's a situation where you probably don't have to be beating yourself up about something, you can say thank you. So if I'm 3 minutes late to something, I like to be very much on time, and I am a person who very much values and respects people's time. And I'm always like that. And people who know me know I'm like that. But so if I happen to be 3 minutes late, I'm not gonna whip and castigate myself because I'm 3 minutes late. So what I will say is, thank you for waiting. Thank you for being patient. Um, Thank you for understanding. those kind of things. So I will say, thank you. So in the situation where I said, you may have already said, excuse me, and then you turn around and tell somebody, I'm sorry, you say, excuse me, and then thank you for letting me through. So we show gratitude and appreciation for other people being flexible with us. You know, you give positive reward to more things that you want to see anyway, right? I shouldn't say right because I've never said that on here before, but that's how it works in the world. And actually giving rewards works better to train behavior than does negative consequences. So just think about how you train a dog. The best way to train a dog to do tricks is to give them, little pieces of food and little treats and say, "Oh, good girl, good boy," and give them pets and lovin's. And then they to want to please you, they will keep doing that. Well, we're all animals, and think about yourself. If you cooked a meal for somebody and you didn't bring bread. You didn't make bread to go with the pasta. And they wanted you to always make bread with the pasta. And so they just griped about the bread through the whole meal. Literally, you'd never want to cook anything for them again. And if you did cook for them again, it's a chore. And you're just going to phone it in, right? But if they said, "Oh, how delicious the pasta is, and thank you so much for all your hard work. You know what? Next time we should put some bread with this. Like, this stuff's so good that if we put bread with it, like, I would probably pass out. It would be so amazing." Well, guess what happens the next time you make pasta? You're going to make bread. Oh, I didn't turn off my ringer. Sorry. Get my ringer off. Okay. Now, at times, we accountability too little, or we see people who take accountability too little. We may take accountability too little because it seems like in this social world that we live in and all of this social media, everything is very, like we've talked about before in level 1 and in level 2. Everybody's sort of living through their ego. They are putting their best pictures on the internet. They're using filters. They're doing all kinds of things to only show the egoic side of them to look perfect. And if we're talking about being authentic, then part of being authentic is showing accountability. And I kind of think about it like this. You know how they say, like, if you do something wrong and all your friends, all they do is like give you a hard time, like maybe they're not really your friends, or maybe you should get rid of them or whatever. Now, sometimes it's teasing to make you laugh, and I get that. Hi, Scorpion Black. I get that. But I think about it more like if we're trying to be our most authentic self, then we have to sort of look at life like a job interview. Look at our relationships kind of like a job interview. So there's certain people that when they go to a job interview, they wear their one suit that they only ever wear when they have a job interview. They're never going to wear that suit to work. They're never going to wear that dress to work. And and I get it. Put your best foot forward. I get it. But then they spend the whole time talking themselves up and, I'm such a hard worker, and, I'm so responsible, and but you know what? You knew at your last job you were a minute late to almost every shift. Or there were days you were phoning it in because you're a human being, right? And they'll even ask you in job interviews, like, tell me about a time you made a mistake, or, things like that. And you got to come up with something. And so we make up the most innocuous, silly little, "Oh, I filed a piece of paper in the wrong folder. And as soon as I realized, I immediately rectified my mistake. And I told my supervisor," and you wouldn't. You wouldn't. So I look at it like in relationships with people and at a job interview, You actually need to sell yourself, your authentic self, because then that means if they choose you for that job, then they like you as you are, and you're not going to be having to hold yourself to this egoic standard of, look at me, perfect employee. If they choose you after saying, you know what, every so often I'm a minute or two late, but I work hard, then they don't care. You know what I mean? Sometimes we really need a job, and so we're going to do whatever is necessary. But in our relationships, show them, show them who you are. If you, I know love languages get a bad rap, but there's some truth to them. If you're a touchy feely kind of person, be touchy feely. If they absolutely hate it, then maybe that's not the person to be around. Or if you have a really big personal bubble, make sure that you keep space. Hi, Adrian Hicks. Thanks for being here. Just being yourself, you will attract the kind of people who want to be around you, which may be odd, right? Especially if you're odd, because I'm odd and I will attract some weird people sometimes. Not always. Okay. If we're always in our ego, we get this thing called, I call it toxic perfectionism. I really haven't heard anybody else say it, but I don't know if they do. I just call it toxic perfectionism. And that usually comes from the outside, but we internalize it. So it's like no matter what happens, it's your fault. And so, if you were just a little bit better, if you would just do this, oh, you almost had it. If you could just be this way, if you could just do these things, if you could just, oh, if you would have, you were so close, you almost had it right. And so when we internalize that, we are beating ourselves up to be perfect all the time, to try to get the thing that we were so close to getting, to get the acceptance, to be heard, to be seen, to be part of the group, to get a place at the table, whatever it is. We internalize that, I have to be put together all the time. I have to be squeaky clean all the time. I have to not a hair out of place. My clothes have to be crisp. I have to walk a certain way and talk a certain way and do a certain thing to get a seat at the table. And it's toxic because you're never going to get a seat at the table that way. Because if it works a few times, somebody saying, oh, shoot, you were so close, they're just going to keep doing it. They don't want to give you a seat at the table. And then you're not authentic anymore. You're putting on the facade that you think these other people or that other person wants just to be able to get that seat at the table. And I think once you realize that somebody's doing that to you, or a group of people are doing that to you, you no longer want to sit at that table. Or you want to turn the table over. Who knows? Okay. Hi, Leon. Thanks for being here. He says, yep, I tell all my employers that I work harder than most, but I prefer not to be the team leader, but I will breathe down their neck to remain number one. Yeah, like be real. Be real. I'm at a job right now where I'm more qualified than the highest person, the director, just because of my experience and licensure and things like that. But I told him going in, I don't want that job. I'm never going to try for that job. I don't want it. I don't like bureaucracy. I don't like red tape. I want to work with people. That's what I want. I don't want that job. Because sometimes, they won't hire people who are overqualified because they think, oh, you're just going to bust through. And I don't want it. Yeah. Okay. Hi, Cutting Up with the Joneses. Thanks for being in here. Yeah. And Leon says it's an expectation of performance. And I think the other thing is, the other side of that is when you are a high performer, there is performance punishment where you're a high performer, and so they give you more work to do. You get done with your work ahead of other people, and so they just give you more work. Or you can do the hard things, and so they give you all of the hard things because you can get them done. And that happens at work all the time, performance punishment, all the time. Hi, Red Lion. Okay, so he's catching up from the beginning. Wonder how I sound at 2 times the speed. Back to toxic perfectionism, though. What it does is plays on your ego's fears. So, a lot of what goes on in the world and why so many people are in their ego is because the government, society, marketing, other people, social media, everything plays on fears. When you look at the beauty industry, fear of getting older, fear of getting overweight, fear of not being seen as beautiful or fashionable or yada yada. The government fear, they will fearmonger everything. These people are coming to take your jobs, or these people hate you, or you know you're not cool if you don't vote for me. I mean, it's very, the world's going to end, or all the roaches are going to come out from under the rocks, whatever. Oh, there's a fly. um Everything external to us is playing on our fears. And when we have ego fear, then it's really easy to play on those fears, and we can get caught up in it. We can forget that this is all a very serious game, but it's a game, right? We talked about that in the very first lesson of level 2 was this is a game. We have to take it seriously because there's some pretty serious rules in this game of life. We're in this avatar. This is the only avatar we get, and it can be kind of fragile. So it's a serious game, but it's all made up. Okay. Hyper individualism, Leon says. Yeah, exactly. We've literally been taught to be hyper individualists, and we are literally mammals, which means we are pack animals. We are supposed to live in collectives and groups. We're supposed to. I mean, you look at mammals, if there's an isolated one, it's for a bad reason. It is never for a good reason. Either they're doing something funky, they're sick and have something that's catching, they're swimming off to go die of old age, or wandering off, whatever. That happens with mammals. I don't know why that is. But society has taught us to be super ultra individualistic, and we're pack animals. So that tells you right there how this division is the division of everything. Like, separate us from everything and everyone. Timekeeper says fear, it could kill a man, turn a real man to a realer man, or package you as a bathing ape wearing gorilla stan. Now, you quoted that, so that makes me wonder who said that. Like, obviously, Timekeeper said it, but like, who are you quoting? Cutting Up with the Joneses says, can someone be an underachiever with perfectionistic expectations? 100%. There is such a thing at, well, how do I word it? It's not a fear of success. It can fall under fear of failure, but it's more like you get stuck. Okay, so I'll use ADHD as an example. And I don't know whether you do or don't, but this happens to other people as well, especially people who have been victims of toxic perfectionism. This can happen. But with ADHD, one of the things that can happen is you will have multiple projects going, and you'll have a little bit done on this one and about halfway done on one and almost done on another. And really, if you just did that one last thing on this project, it would be done. But you're just sort of surrounded by undone things. And one of the things that can happen, and so I guess you would consider that like underachieving, really. But honestly, these are amazing projects, right? And so you have this ability and this talent and the vision to do all of these things, but you actually haven't finished very many, if any. And it's two reasons. One, when you hyper focus on something, when you've got it visualized, you've got it down, you know all the things you need to do, and it gets almost done, well, now there's no reason to finish it because you know you can. I go, yeah, it became boring because there's no hard work left in it, and so I don't have to hyper focus, and now it's just like all I have to do is that one thing. Now I know I can finish it, so I don't need to. So that's one thing. The other thing is if you start something and you find that it's even more challenging than you thought, and people are watching, like people know what you're doing, or they're watching you do the thing, like other people are seeing this, then an ego fear will hit in that, especially if you're a very talented person, right? And we're just assuming because we have all these projects, and we have the talent to do that. If I put my all into this thing, like this is super challenging. If I put my all into it and I give 100% and it sucks, or it's not the best, like if I'm this talented and I give my all to this thing and it's not great, that will be terrible. Like I can't handle that. So I get stuck on starting it. Not because I fear work or I fear the challenges or I'm not up to the task. Like I literally know what going ahead of time. I can do all the things, but what stops me is if I had ADHD, hyper focus is my superpower. So if I put all my hyper focus into this and I put all my energy and all my brain power and do all of these things and it's not the best, then I can't handle that. So yes, you can have kind of these perfectionistic tendencies or these expectations, or you can visualize these things and you know that you can do them, but there may be things that get you stuck or keep you from finishing those things. All of those things can be overcome. And literally, it's from ignoring your ego. Slap the thing on it and get that one done. Put in the hard work, and guess what? Finish it. And then if people don't like it, F them. Okay, Timekeeper says it is J Electronica Posers. Okay. I may have to listen to that song. It'll probably be one of those things where I recognize the music. I never recognize the names of songs, but then I recognize the music. Okay, Leon says, yes, there are people that do a really great job, but if the job is 5 hours, it takes them 10 to 12. Nina says, OMG, that's me, the craft project queen. Yeah, there's a lot of us like that we have multiple projects. And we may not have the projects out here in the physical world. We may actually have all the ideas in our heads. Cutting Up with Joneses says, it feels like do it perfectly the first time or don't do it at all. Well, then my question is, who told you that? Because that totally sounds like something a parent would say. Do it right the first time. You better do it right the first time. Don't let me catch you not doing it right the first time. And then we internalize that. And maybe it wasn't a parent. Maybe you heard it from a teacher who made an impact. Maybe you heard it from somebody else, but it sounds like something somebody else told you. And then you've taken it on as They handed you a suitcase and you've been carrying it around all this time. Put it down. That's not yours. Who says humans have to do things perfectly the first time? How would we ever discover things if we didn't just try shit? You know what I mean? Like, think about experiments, you know? It's going to fail the first time you do some type of experiment because it's the first time you've done it and you don't know all the variables to control for. So, you know, but try it. Shoot. How did they discover gravity? I actually watched something on that today. Watched an astrophysicist talk about how gravity is a social construct, and I loved it. Okay, Leon says, Maggie, I have ADH, short-term ADH. First quarter is great, second and third terrible and very boring. Now the fourth with 5 minutes to go, I do very well. That is in ADHD, a lot of times people need an external motivator. And so it's that 5 minutes left to go and you pull it out. That external time motivator is the thing. It make us go through. Hi, Compassionate and Callous. Hi, My. Thanks for being in here. My says, staying in your awareness leads to authenticity. Staying in your authenticity will naturally align and orient you towards your abundance. And we're going to talk about manifesting, which is a word that's overused and used weirdly, but we're going to get there. Okay. Because I told you guys this session was going to be about pulling from the collective unconscious or the super conscious, because I really like that. Now, one of the things that you'll hear is you'll hear people say the best way to tap in to the collective unconscious and remember, we've talked about words are words are words, and it all means the same things. You can say tapping into spirit, tapping into the universe, but because we're doing shadow work, the word they use is collective unconscious. Call it what you want. It literally doesn't matter. So you will hear that meditation is the way to go. The difficulty happens when you look up things like meditation and you see the pretty gal in yoga pants sitting in a sunflower field saying Om, and it's all quiet and nothing else is going on. For some people, that seems like misery. Some people can do that. Some people can. You know what I mean? Like it sounds nice. It sounds nice. I also think of bugs. If I'm sitting in a field of sunflowers, there are bugs, and I'm not going to be able to meditate. There's also some people who have difficulty meditating because their mind will go 1,000 directions. So I want to talk a little bit about forms of meditation. As an aside, I also want to say that a lot of the standard westernized meditation that we see is very female oriented. And we don't talk a lot about things that men do that actually put them in a meditative state that they probably don't even realize. Leon says, I prefer flashcards while walking through the park. Well, don't trip if you're looking at flashcards. Okay, so standard meditation is quiet contemplation, is just sitting quietly, letting a thought come up. We acknowledge it, yep, and then we let it go away. That is standard meditation, is just sitting alone with our thoughts, acknowledge, let it go away. We can also do something called guided imagery, which is where we can sit quietly and listen. We can listen to a video or audio of somebody guiding us through images. So you use your imagination, they use your imagination for you to visualize things internally. Those are kind of neat, because you never know what they're going to say. And if you have, a really big imagination like I do, it can be fun. It's a whole movie playing in your head and you don't know the outcome and it's kind of fun. So those can be fun. You guys can look for those if that sounds interesting. Another side note is I was looking at YouTube yesterday, and I was looking at guided imagery and guided meditations, and I put in guided meditation for men. They're just So when I say a lot of these things are women slanted or female feminine slanted, YouTube has all the things. You can look up anything on YouTube and find it. The closest thing I got was like it was some kind of men's ASMR, maybe it was barbershop or something. Um but that was about it. So that's something I'm gonna be thinking on is guided meditations for men that I think would be interesting. But here's some ways that people don't really think about. Cynical Optimist says, I prefer walking meditation. Yeah, I like walking meditations too, where you're walking and you're seeing things and you're breathing the air and your body is moving and you do let your thoughts just free flow. And it's great. The algorithm is like public school education. Oh, Leon, don't get me started on public school education. Okay, so some ways that you may meditate. I'm going to catch that little fruit fly, or I'm going to look like I'm losing my mind. One of the two. Listening to music. So when we listen to music, it is a guided imagery. It literally is. And the music, the frequency of the music, the vibrations of the music, if you listen to something with a lot of bass, how you can feel it in your system. And then, if there's words to the music, if there's lyrics that you're listening to, the lyrics paint a picture of something. And, if you're just sitting and listening to music, it will create a visual picture of the lyrics in your mind. And you will have thoughts about the music that you're listening to, or the music will remind you of things and you'll have thoughts. And because you're listening to music, you're much more likely to let the thought come up and then let the thought go rather than holding on to it. So just sitting and listening to music is meditative, and it can be very healing for our bodies. Um, in that same vein, dancing can be meditative. You're listening to the music and then you move your body rhythmically, specific movements if you feel like it. If you're just free flowing, you know, you're moving to the beat, your body becomes one with the music. It's moving with the music. It's moving with the beat. And we sort of lose ourselves again, and thoughts can just kind of come in and go away, and it can become very meditative. um, Exercise or working out, lifting weights, doing things repetitively over and over and over again, our body's moving, and we will have thoughts come up, and we're much more likely to let them go when we're exercising, when we're running, walking, like I was talking about, kind of aerobic exercise, any type of working out, using the machines, those kind of things can become very meditative. And these kind of things would more likely fall into men's purview, listening to music or dancing or working out, but also menial tasks. So things you have to do around the house or outside that you don't have to think about. I when I think of doing menial tasks that can be meditative, I think of mowing the lawn, because you have the vibration of the lawnmower. You may or may not be listening to music. You're doing a repetitive movement depending on the pattern that you're, putting in the yard. You don't really have to think about it. You know, we've all been mowing since we were teenagers. You don't really have to think about how does the lawnmower work. Um, and so thoughts come up and thoughts go. So that kind of busy work type stuff. But doing hobbies as well, a lot of times we'll do hobbies that they will take our visual concentration, or they'll take our dexterity to do, and we have to really focus on it, but we don't have to think about it. Like it's a labor. You know what I mean? We're working, but we don't have to think about too much what we're doing. And that again lets our thoughts come and go. So it's very meditative. Also going for a drive. Again, a lot of us have been driving since we were teenagers. We don't have to think too much about how a car works and we can just drive, maybe roll down the window, maybe have some music on, have some fresh air, and just drive. And it's very, very meditative. So, with all those examples, when I ask people, do you meditate? Who in here would say yes after all of those examples? And there may be more. You may be thinking to yourself, "Oh, I bet that's kind of meditative." Let me know in the chat. Do you meditate? You can even tell me how you meditate. Okay, so Nate says failure kills the ego, but to me, I look at failure as another opportunity for success. Also, I don't tend to visualize myself achieving the goal, but operating as if I already achieved the goal. Yeah, you can. There's some people that when they connect themselves to the outcome, it works really well. When they get in the feeling of accomplishment, it helps them to get from point A to point B. Other people, when they connect themselves to having already accomplished the task, um, it can create a feeling of overwhelm. Again, why we're going to talk about different ways to manifest too, because what works for one person doesn't always work for the next person to manifest. But I agree with you. I was recently in a situation where my car ran out of oil. Oopsie. And I needed to get to a gas station, which was like 11 miles away. And I'm having panic feelings because I'm literally in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing around. There's no way to help me. The only thing I can do is get to a gas station to get oil. And I started visualizing me sitting in the parking lot of the gas station thinking, whoo, I made it. Thank God, oh, I made it. And connecting myself to that, to already having accomplished it. And it helped to calm me down. Now, it wasn't perfect, but it helped. And it helped me to pass the time to get there much more efficiently and without, having an anxiety attack or something. See, again, authenticity. I'm going to tell you all about the ways I screw up. Ah, okay, Leon says, I have a sports bike. I know that feeling. Oh my gosh. Motorcycles or convertibles, even wind therapy. Don't they call that wind therapy? Because, oh my gosh, no matter what's going on, you can get out on a bike in a convertible. Just let the wind pass you. And it's so calming and it's so meditative. That's perfect. Cynical optimist is living in the end. Yeah, we have to be careful of that too, right? Because we won't live in the now. The future doesn't actually exist, and we've talked about that here in shadow work. It doesn't actually exist. The only thing we know for sure that exists is our own selves in this moment. That's the only thing we can be sure of. I don't know if any of you exist. I can't prove it. I can only prove that I exist because I think I'm in my own mind. So I know I exist. Since I don't know what the future is, it doesn't exist. So we can't attach ourselves too far, maybe only to a feeling to get us somewhere. Carry a bottle in your truck, Leon? Now, we're not going to promote illegal things. Hi, BGS. Thanks for being in here. He says, yes, it's like riding a horse. Oh my gosh, yes. And riding a horse. A bike is like riding a horse, but riding horses, even like spending time outside with pets or animals that you enjoy. One of my big things is going to the ocean, just literally looking at the ocean, how, the waves come in and they go out, and they come in and they go out. And there's a sound to the ocean. It's very low, but you can hear it and you can smell it, and you're watching the waves, and it's beautiful. It becomes There are people who talk about, like, they got to go to the ocean to get some ocean therapy. I had a friend that said everything is cured by salt water, whether it's the ocean, sweat, or tears, which I always thought that was pretty cute. So definitely, definitely. Okay. So hopefully everybody comes up with ways to meditate, because that is step one in pulling things from the collective unconscious or the superconscious, is to be able to be quiet in your mind. Now, you're gonna have maybe an inner monologue, an inner narrative, visualizations, those kind of things, but you're gonna have to get it to where you're not having to focus and hyper focus on a bunch of different things and doing all the stuff and what about this and da, 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 da. What I mean by quiet is get all of the junk, get all the junk out of there, and then sit with what's left, which is those thoughts coming in, inner monologue, visualizations, those kind of things are actually coming from you. This is your unconscious. This is your subconscious. And that is what's going to attach to the collective unconscious. That is where, when we just sit and allow ourselves to think on things, when we remember that person's name that we totally forgot, right? When we have our best ideas. People talk about, I have my best ideas in the shower, because you're not thinking about all the junk yet. Well, hopefully. Leon's just telling BGS, I ride a bull, you ride an electric scooter. Oh, okay. So he was saying a bottle or two of oil in your trunk where your spare tire is. I went straight to alcohol. Yes, I was told I should keep oil in my car, especially going on road trips. So I will do better. I will do better. There's oil in there now. Okay. So anywhere and in any way that you allow yourself free thought is meditative. That free thought is it's kind of like it's making the telephone call to the unconscious, to the collective unconscious. Our free thoughts are kind of going, hey, this is what we're thinking about. This is what's going on. Those kind of things. Thank you, Adrian. um, So it's dialing the number of the collective unconscious when we allow ourselves that free thought. It's sort of flowing up and touching, and dependent upon what the free thought is, it's going into the library, because we also talk about how the collective unconscious could be called the Akashic records. If you don't know what that is, it's sort of like a metaphysical library of the knowledge of all things. So it's also the collective unconscious, is just it's visualized a bit differently. But our free flow thoughts are sort of going up and touching this collective unconscious and saying, hey, you got anything on this subject? You have anything about this task? And there will be an answer that will come back. But if we're never sitting in that state of free thought, we don't really get to touch it. And when you think about those times when you're in free thought, when you're driving, you're on a motorcycle, you're listening to music, you don't really think about how cute you look. I mean, hopefully, when you're totally in the moment and you're enjoying it, ego kind of goes to sleep. It relaxes and it calms, and it's not in the way. So then we have this free thought that's going to start pulling stuff down out of the collective unconscious. Oh, BGS is too bad for you, Junior. Cute. Okay. To get to that state, though, we have to be authentic, and that's what we left off last time. Being authentically you, that's what we talked about a little bit. Staying away from things that shame you, staying away from things where you're blaming yourself. If you notice that your free thoughts start to shame you, blame you for stuff, get mad at you, tell you all kind of nasty things, then switch what you're doing. Or tell Shadow just to shut the heck up. Shut up. I'm doing something here. Which you can. Again, you can talk to yourself. I always used to say, I talk to myself because that's the most intelligent conversation. So feel free to use that. You know, you can hold yourself accountable for your mistakes, but when you're trying to meditate, you're trying to be authentic, you're trying to calm your ego, you're trying to pull from the unconscious, that is not the time to be, shaming yourself and holding yourself accountable, right? Like give yourself the same amount of grace that you give other people. Most of us are so quick to forgive other people for their terrible behavior, but we don't forgive ourselves for even a fraction of that. Where it's all right when they do it. I can be totally understanding and I know where they came from and gosh, they had a hard life and they had a bad childhood and we give them every excuse that they never asked for. We'll even assume things. Well, if somebody's that mad, that means something happened to them when they were 7.5 years old. Well, they didn't ask for your forgiveness. So until they ask, give it to yourself. Give yourself that grace that you give everybody else who never even apologized. I have a very different view of forgiveness in that same way. I will forgive myself before I forgive people who never asked for forgiveness. Every time. Society tells us to forgive, which makes me question why. Why does society promote forgiveness? What's the point? What's the logical point? Some people will say, well, you never get past the bad behavior. I'm like, I'm not a turn the other cheek kind of person. I hold myself accountable and I hold myself to a standard. So unless you apologize, you don't get the forgiveness because I can move on. I can. I kind of go back to Descartes. I don't even know if you're real anyway, so it's fine. Leon says he listens to Lil Wayne, DMX, Nas, and Kevin Gates while writing. He says he got in trouble when he was a child in school for not forgiving people. BGS, you are so right about Prince. It makes all the difference. But yeah, like we're taught as children that you have to forgive people, that it's just like you're given no choice. And logically speaking, it doesn't make sense. If somebody smacks you, you're supposed to give them the other cheek. It doesn't make logical sense. I'm not a completely eye for an eye, kind of person, although I am a little because I am very much about balance. So you don't get forgiveness that you didn't ask for. If you do something crappy to me, I will have apathy for you and I can move on. And I think a lot of people won't feel so taken advantage of if they don't give people forgiveness that they didn't ask for. It's holding other people to a standard. I'm not saying you can't mess up, but if you're accountable and you say, "Oh, I messed up. That's my bad. I'm sorry." You don't even have to say I'm sorry or I apologize. That's my bad, or I take full accountability, or I did this thing and then I fixed it. Here you go. Fine. Forgiveness. That's fine. Totally get it. Makes sense. That's balance, right? I don't ever expect somebody to forgive me for something I don't apologize for. That's why I fix my mistakes. If I expect myself to be accountable, I expect others to be accountable too. That's the balance of my ego. So, when you're doing meditation and you notice that you're having these free flowing thoughts, you can ask questions out loud. The interesting thing is when you ask questions out loud, you create a vibration, but you also think them at the same time you ask them. And what'll be interesting is you will get an answer. It's pretty cool. The first few times it's like, "Ooh, that was weird." You have to listen to the answer now. You could get a verbal response. You could literally hear a voice in your head that, it's probably going to be your voice or a voice similar to that or a relative, somebody you know. It's not going to be a big deal who will say the answer, or you will visualize something. Something will pop into your head. It likely won't be what you expect or in the way that you expected. Sometimes we press our own thoughts, and you're pressing your own thought into the answer when the answer kind of has a start and stop quality instead of that free flow pattern that you were doing. If it gets this start and stop quality, it's because you're pressing your expectation into the answer. If you just ask the question and let whatever pops into your head pop into your head, you're going to get an answer. And in that way, we are pulling from the collective unconscious because you're not asking yourself and you're not asking your ego. You're just asking. I'm just asking. And we get the answer that we get. Okay. BGS says, I ask for forgiveness or give forgiveness for my integrity. I'll forgive you after I beat your butt. Well, I mean, there is that too, right? That's a little eye for an eye. Leon says, forgiving people is like watching CNN and some old Baptist preacher from BGS's generation says, we have to forgive. That's what Jesus would do. An old man. Please sit down. Yeah, BGS says, I forgive after I get even. I mean, that's the thing. Like, if I feel like you're truly sorry, you know what I mean? You've taken accountability, you made up for it, right? We want to see accountability. And so we have to promote accountability from other people. That's holding people to a certain standard and how they're allowed to treat you. We don't just make excuses for people and give them forgiveness when they never asked for it. I don't give anybody anything when they didn't ask for it. So, everything should be voluntary. Okay. So I'm going to do a quick exercise. You can do it now, live in vivo while we're doing this, or you can do it later, or for the replay gang, you can do it, while this is going on. But this little exercise that we're going to end on is asking questions of the collective unconscious. Okay. So the way we do this exercise is close your eyes. You can play some music or, do any of those things, but try to be in a kind of quiet place, get comfortable, close your eyes, and then ask out loud, what is the one thing holding me back from being my best self right now? So I'm going to say it again. What is the one thing holding me back from being my best self right now? When you ask that question, just let the answer pop into your head. Again, it could be words, it could be a phrase, it could be a feeling. You could visualize something of the one thing that's holding you back right now. Once you have it, once you have the answer, then you ask, how do I fix it? How do I fix it? Sometimes the thing that's holding us back the most is not ourselves. It may be somebody else. It may be where we live or what's around us or somebody at work or our partners, could be anything that we don't have control over. But by asking, how do I fix it? You get an answer and a sense of what part do you have control over, that you can do something about it. Okay. Then ask yourself, what do I most need to fix it? What do I most need to fix it? And this is going to tell you what you need to go get to do the thing to fix it. And maybe what you most need is courage or motivation or a good meal or to drink more water so you have more energy, right? Now, the last question in this is, what can I do right now that will help? What can I do right now that will help? Okay. So to go through it again, because we're ending on this exercise. What is the one thing holding me back from being my best self right now? How do I fix it? What do I most need to fix it? And what can I do right now that will help? Okay. So you ask those questions out loud, just when you're in quiet contemplation. Take the answer for what it is. Now, BGS says you better be ready for the answer. And he has, I think no, that's not a smiley face. Yeah, I think you absolutely have to be ready. Adrian says the universe just answered with gummy bears. Sorry, carry on. Listen, sometimes you may get an answer like that, which I know you're being silly, but you may get an answer like that where it's like, think about how the Joker talked to Batman. Why so serious, Batman? Because Batman was always dark. He was in darkness and sadness and grief and bitterness about his parents' death, and he could not get past it. He could not move past all the pain and bitterness. And so Joker, as his shadow, used humor as a weapon against him and would say, "Why so serious, Batman?" Because sometimes what you need to do is quit being so damn serious and do something nice for yourself and eat some gummy bears. Just sit down and eat some gummy bears and enjoy them and quit being so serious, or quit, you know, working so hard. Take a break. Do something nice for yourself. Sometimes that's what you can do right now to help, is just enjoy some gummy bears. And it's good. It's good. So BGS asked him, what do gummy bears mean to you? And he said, flavor. Leon said, it's these three old people who will not retire so that I can take their jobs. You've been at them to trip and fracture a hip. Oh my gosh. I could snitch on them for taking long breaks. Yeah, again, sometimes your biggest barriers are not you. It's other people. So that's why you have to ask, like, how do I fix it? What do I need most to fix it? And what can I do right now that helps? Maybe not snitching on them for long breaks. Leon says, I need them to trip and fracture a hip. Spell check. Thank you. Adrian says, if I'm being serious, they just make me happy. I only tend to eat gummy bears when I'm happy or at least in a good mood. Yeah. Yeah. Like sometimes you just have to, and think about that. It's candy, right? It's candy. Sometimes some of the stuff we do is for our inner child, or it's things we enjoyed as a child, just when things weren't so heavy and serious. When you're a child and you're a bit more carefree, you can sit enjoy a little bit more. And it's nice to bring back that feeling of just being happy, just simply happy, just simply being happy. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, BGS telling Leon there's more jobs than those three. Honestly, if and that's very true. It's very true. But if If one of those jobs, you want those particular jobs, right? Sometimes what you need most to fix it is to figure out how to be patient and go with the flow. The timing will be whatever the timing is. It is what it is, right? And since we're all in our avatars playing this game, there's some reason why. I don't really fall into the, oh, there's a reason for everything and God makes everything turn out okay in the end and God doesn't give you more than you can handle. We all know people and maybe our own selves when, it seemed like God sure did give us a lot more than we could handle. And people have been through things so much that their brains broke. So I don't really fall into that category, but I do more so if I'm playing the game and I'm playing it right and that's the direction I want to go and I keep getting, you know, curb checked the other way or told to wait, told to wait, told to wait. At some point I have to figure, okay, well, maybe I need to turn left or maybe I need to try harder. What lesson am I supposed to be learning in this moment? And I got to figure that out for myself. And if the lesson for you is to try harder or to learn, have some patience to just sit with it or turn left. But all those decisions are up to you, right? And you can figure those things out in your contemplation because it's your game. At the end of the day, this is your life. And nobody else really gets to tell you how to live it until you hurt other people. That's just how that is. Okay. Leon says, yeah, but everything I need is within 15 minutes. You know where I live. Okay. You must be talking to BGS. Okay. Adrian says, when I was a child, my mother and I were involved in a car accident. Oh, I'm sorry. I came out unscathed, but she had to have surgery. She was seriously hurt and unconscious. The only thing I can remember is that her best friend kept passing me candy orange slices during her procedure. So candy is attached to alleviating trauma, I guess. Could be. A way to pass time, a way to find happiness even amongst, a hard time. Just finding happiness. Those little moments of joy. Those little moments of joy are actually really special. I think sometimes we don't realize it as a child how how important those little moments of joy are, and the older we get, I think we start to see that those little moments of joy are very, very important. And when you find people that bring you joy or offer you moments of joy or the people you want to tell about your joy, those are the people that you keep around you, not the ones that keep you bogged down the other way. All right. Well, we are at the hour. I appreciate everybody being in here so much. We are going to have session 4 next week. We're going to get more into manifesting, I guess we're going to call it. We're going to go at it from more of a quantum physics, quantum entanglement kind of way, not so much in the woo woo. If I say a bunch of chants, I'm going to be a bojillionaire. We're going to go at it from more an energetic quantum way. And we're going to see it as pulling from the collective unconscious. Leon says, alleviating trauma for me is cooking and eating catfish. Oops. I used to make it with my grandfather all the time. It makes me think of him. I just had catfish. I love catfish. But I can see that. And then you go through all the steps of cooking, when you're making the thing and then you get to have the catfish and food is so comforting. That's great. I like it. I like it. Okay. So next week we'll talk about more manifesting from a quantum perspective. I don't have a topic yet for Sunday. I'm still working on it. But I'll probably do panel on Sunday. I'll probably do an open panel that day around a certain topic. So I hope everybody has a great Wednesday. If you haven't eaten dinner, I hope you have a great dinner. Leon, I hope you have some catfish soon. And I'll see you guys this Sunday. Bye.